Hey guys, welcome to the Hollabbey Homestead. My name is Robin. I want to wish you all a safe and happy Halloween. But since it's Halloween, I want to take this opportunity to talk to you guys about something. So here we go. So since it's Halloween, everybody's out wanting to get costumes and go to parties, go trick-or-treating, and sometimes people can be disrespectful in their costume choice. So this is a talk about cultural appropriation. So if you haven't clued in already, I am part Native. I am Mi'kmaq from Nova Scotia, and so this happens a lot. It's been happening for years. People pick the wrong costume or the most inappropriate costume. This happens with other cultures, not just Native people, but I'm just going to talk from a place that I know personally. So a lot of people like to, if you're an adult and you're going to a Halloween party, you know, when you get a costume and they're, you know, like sexy nurse or sexy doctor or you know, along the lines of that, there's a costume that's called the Sexy Indian, and it's a skimpy fake buckskin looking dress, Pocahontas type thing, and people think it's okay to dress up like an Indian and or like a Native person, and it's not. So the sexy Native costume, it kind of perpetuates abuse and violence towards Native people. It's also very disrespectful because Native people have ceremonial outfits, which I will show you because I used to be a powwow dancer, and it also it's just so demeaning and stereotypical, and it's not nice to see. And like I said, it perpetuates the stereotype and the violence towards Native people, especially Native women, and it makes Native women be seen as an object or a toy, and that's a really sad thing. So I wanted to give you some quick facts here. I've actually been working on this video for a few days because I want to kind of deliver this to you in a proper, informative way. So I'm going to give you some facts about Native people to try and break down some stereotypes here. So now this figure, I couldn't find a most recent figure. I'm sure there's one out there, but a quick Google, between 2004 and 2014, 400 out of 618 First Nations territories did not have access to clean drinking water, and they were under boil water advisories. Now, 2014 was a few years ago. Maybe some of them have resolved it, but for the most part, most of these communities are still under boil water advisory. So imagine if you moved into a place, a subdivision, and you paid your taxes and you did everything right, and you were told to boil your water because it wasn't drinkable. That's not right. And there's a lot of First Nations communities that live like that and have lived like that for years. And that, you know, that makes it difficult to work, to live, to stay healthy, especially in these isolated communities. Like, where are you going to get clean water from? So on the topic of sexy Native costumes, it's awful. So 4 out of 5 Native women experience domestic abuse or sexual abuse in their lifetimes. And before you make a racial judgment on why that is, 86% of the people who have victimized them are non-Native. So let that sink in. This is because things like the sexy native Halloween costume perpetuates this stereotype that, Native women aren't people. And there's actually serial killers that hunt down Native women because chances are the police will not follow up on their missing case. And that brings us to missing and murdered Indigenous women. And the sad thing is that there's lots of Native families that report these women missing, sometimes children, unfortunately. And, the response is, well, they're transient, or they're drunk, or, all the other stereotypes that you want to give about a Native person that you hear often. And so, in the law's eyes, it kind of feels like we're not worthy to be looked for if we go missing. And that's really sad and really terrifying, as a Native person. So, on the topic of, territories and First Nations and stuff and stolen land, it's not just our land that's been taken from us by colonial settlers. And I mean, yes, this happened 200 years ago, whatever, more than that. However, there's still non-Native people that are stealing from us. So people are, this is really common in the New Age community. People are stealing smudging from us. They're stealing dream catchers from us. Now, I'm not saying that if you're not Native, you can't have those things. What I'm saying is support a Native person who is selling those things, and support where it's come from and recognize where it's come from, because there's so many non-Native people making tons of money off of Native culture, and that's really hurtful when there's Native people that are trying to sell their crafts and their goods, and they're trying to make money, and it's difficult. So, like I said, I'm not saying, don't use those things, don't enjoy dream catchers, but buy them from a proper place. And on the topic of that, though, fashion is really guilty of this. So sometimes in fashion, you see non-Native fashion designers that, are designing these headdresses and war bonnets, so like with the feathers all around, and you see them using beadwork with Native designs on their clothing. And it'd be one thing if they consulted with a Native person and a Native person helped design these things for them, but they don't. And this is just another aspect of making money off of somebody else's culture. So another fact I want to share is residential schools. I don't want to get into it because you probably know all about it. You've probably heard about it in the news. But I just want to kind of give you an image of this. So imagine if, when your kid is 4 or 5 years old, somebody shows up to your house unannounced, takes your child, and they go to a boarding school, and you're not allowed to see them. They're forced to speak another language. They're abused. And you have no control over it. And actually, parents, went to jail and were punished for trying to take their kids back. And a lot of people like to say, oh, well, residential school happened like 200 years ago, so, why does it matter now? It does matter now because there's intergenerational trauma. So if your father or grandfather or great-grandfather went to residential school, that abuse and lack of parenting kind of trickles down the family tree. And, let's be real. The last residential school closed in 1996. So I'm 32 years old right now. I was born in 1988. That means that there are people that are my age that at least went to residential school up until they were 8 years old. this is this residential school and the topic of it and the consequences of it is something that a lot of Native people still live with, and I think people need to be more understanding of that. So another thing that Native people go through, and I'm sure other races go through too, but like I said, I'm just sharing my own personal views, is that you go into a store and you get followed by an employee or the store owner because they look at you and they make a judgment that you're Native, and they follow you around because they think you're going to steal something. Imagine if every time you went to the store you're followed around because you're under suspicion of stealing something or going to steal something. Also, Native people and I will say non-Caucasian people in general are pulled over way more. I can give a testament for that personally, because Dave is not Native, I'm Native, and it's funny how if he gets pulled over, and I mean he doesn't get pulled over as much as I do. Now, by the way, I have a professional license, so I'm not doing anything to get myself pulled over. The cops let him go, but anytime I get pulled over, they do the worst they can to me, give me the worst ticket or whatever. And how fair is that? So the next time you're thinking about, or you hear somebody thinking about, getting or wearing a sexy Native costume, please don't. It's really racist. It's really discriminatory. It's really hurtful. We are people. We are humans, just like you and just like my neighbors and everybody else around here. It doesn't give you a right to personify us in a costume or a stereotype. The sexy Native costume, that is so inappropriate. And I can't even believe in 2020 this is still a thing. Like I said, we do have ceremonial outfits, and we call it regalia, and that's not a costume. That's our culture. This is not a costume. This is not a costume. This is my culture. This is not a costume. This is my culture.